Welcome everybody, this is Annica Törneryd, founder of Act to Exceed. To someone who is very inspiring and impressing to read from, and I am so excited. I'm actually nervous. Welcome, Rhett Power.
Welcome. You don't need to be nervous. We know each other.
Yeah, but still, it's impressive. So I'm just going to do a little short introduction for people who don't know Rhett Power yet. Successful and multiple award-winning entrepreneur. Started a toy company, Wide Creations, that you had massive success with. Regular columnist for AIM magazine, Success magazine, Business Insider, and shares articles that are fantastic. I love them. You're a speaker and have shared stages with Zuckerberg and President Barack Obama at this summer's Global Entrepreneurship Summit. You've been mentioned as one of the top world 100 business bloggers, and featured and quoted in CNBC, CNN Money, Fortune.com, Time, Bloomberg, The Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, and Business Insider. I'm going to stop there. On and on and on. But that's quite a lot on everything you've done.
Thank you.
So let's talk about some of your achievements and challenges in your career so far. What do you feel has been your greatest achievement so far this year and professional?
Okay. I don't know where to even begin there. I'm this sounds, maybe it sounds bad, but I'm pretty happy with where I am and in life and in business, and everything is exciting. I'm working on a project now in Southern Africa with the Vodafone Foundation to set up incubators in Lesotho, a tiny little country in the middle of Southern Africa that is very poor. But it's been great to spend some time with these young entrepreneurs and see their fire and their determination to make it against, pretty much all odds. And so that's been exciting. Yeah. The work, I'm doing some work with a charity in the same country that's centered around using sports, mainly football. And I say football, I would say American football, but actually I've been in Europe long enough to know that it's called football. So, but using football as a way to attract young people to, in Europe or in the United States, we as children, we can participate in any sports that we want, and we can join teams, and it's very much part of our culture and our way that we grow up, and we learn very early the importance of being on a team, being and playing sport. And so, there's not that opportunity here in Southern Africa really for young people to join sports teams, and to learn those valuable lessons that you should learn when you're young. So that's part of the work that I'm doing, and that work is really fascinating because there's a HIV component to it. Lesotho's got one of the highest rates, actually the highest rate now in the world of HIV prevalence. Almost 25% of the population has HIV, and so it's devastating to business. We work with the factory owners here, and they lose 25% of their workforce every year to HIV, and it's devastating. And so, that's really, yeah, it's fascinating. And so I, working with that charity to get kids into sports programs so that they, and we actually do testing, and that's a great program. We find kids that have been exposed to HIV, we get them on the medication. But again, we work with we attract the kids to the program by using sports. So that's been a lot of fun. That's been a great, that's made me feel very good personally. The book coming out, finishing the book early last year, this year, the second book that I have coming out this January by McGraw-Hill. That was very satisfying to finish that. And so, it's been a great year. I've gotten to do some really fascinating travel. I think I was telling you right before we went on, going to Bosnia next week. Just got back from Uganda. So went out to California this year for GES and went to a bunch of other conferences. And so it's been a great year. I look forward to another one.
Yes, I understand. And it does not sound bad at all, saying that you're pretty happy about things, because you should be. I mean, I get a lump in my throat just hearing about it. It must be wonderful to actually live it. So all these great things are fantastic. Have you had any kind of challenge at all? Like, what's been your greatest challenge in the last year?
Greatest challenge. We are launching a new business. I can't really talk much about yet, but getting that off the ground, my longtime business partner and I, getting that off the ground has been a challenge. But that's for us. That's the excitement of what we realized about ourselves. At least I'll speak for myself. I realized after Wild Creations, and I think on our second or third business, that I really enjoy the startup phase more than I do the day-to-day management phase. And so I think I need that adrenaline and that sort of creativeness to really stay engaged. And so it's been exciting, but it's tough. It's a tough launch. It's a tough product to sell, and sort of coming up with the strategy and such to launch it has been been a real challenge. And I'm sure we're going to face some even bigger ones once we launch in the early part of 2017. So you asked me that question in a few months, I'll probably have I'll have some war stories to tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to say now, maybe this is bad, but I sort of feel good about hearing that as successful as you are, you still have challenges.
Look, their challenges, I could go on and on and on about the challenges of being an entrepreneur. This year has been, you happened to catch me in a good year where there weren't that many struggles, but many, many, many years of, we started a business right in the middle of the financial crisis back in 2007 and 2008. And so I could tell you stories about sleeping in the car and sleeping in the vans and not knowing where the next meal was going to come from. And, we've been through that. And so I get it.
Yeah. Okay. With the experience you have from working and speaking and working all over the world, United States, Asia, Africa, Europe, one special thing, one ingredient that entrepreneurs have in common?
That's a great question. And I do believe that perseverance is that one quality. I think entrepreneurs face similar challenges no matter where they are. Every entrepreneur I've ever met says, I wish I had more money, wish I had more, better people, more capacity on my team. And that's just, I hear that everywhere. That's universal. They wish the government wasn't so hard to deal with, similar challenges. But I think the common thread that I see in successful entrepreneurs is that sort of perseverance and that ability to say, to ignore the word no, and that ability to get knocked down and get back up and keep going. And I think that's really I think if I had to put one word, I think that would be the word.
Perseverance. Okay. What's your greatest advice on managing your time from the perspective of wanting to be able to support your family and yourself with the business you're starting?
Well, I have to say that when I first started, I didn't do that very well, and was probably pretty bad at it. But as I have this thing that I do called a personal mission statement, and I was working on it. I was actually given a presentation on it the other day, and what I realized when I was I was showing the group my personal mission statement, and I was getting them to start writing theirs, was that how important and how consistent throughout my mission statement that the word time came up. And what I've realized as I've gotten older, and I have a lot more gray hair than you can't maybe see it right here, but that time is really the most important thing to me now. And that that we don't have that much of it. And when you come to think of it. And so trying to make the most of it now is really, really important for me. And that means being engaged with the people that I'm with when I'm with them. You go out to a restaurant these days and you see a group of people at a table and everybody's on their cell phone, and they're not talking. They're engaged with somebody else somewhere else. And
yeah.
And I think we lose something in that, right? We lose that personal connection with people. We lose that connection. And so, when my son wants me to go to a football match with him, or he wants me to sit down and talk about a book that he's reading or something, I want to do that. I want to stop what I'm doing, because it's probably not as important as spending that time, that quality time right then and there. So I think that's sort of what I found to be the most important. And what I really, to come back to your question, what I try to really do is be present when I'm with somebody, when I'm spending time with them, not be distracted. And I'm easily distracted. I think I have adult ADHD. I really do. I've never been diagnosed, but I do think that I have it. And so that's a tough thing for me. And I have to sort of, I'm terrible. If I sit down and sit down on a computer and I open Facebook or I open a news site, I can lose 3 hours very easily. So I have to control that with myself. I have to make lists. I have to follow my calendar to a T. If I don't do that, if I don't write something down, I don't do it. So, I have to sort of manage myself in that way. But, what I say about young entrepreneurs, or to entrepreneurs, is have somebody in your life that can pull you away. Because I know that we get so involved in what we're doing when we're starting a business, when we're running a business, that it's all consuming, and what I realize is that you need somebody, a friend that can say, hey, you've been working for 6 weeks nonstop. It's time for you to stop and go to dinner tonight, or go have a drink, or, do something, get your head out of the business for a couple of days, and to pull you out. You have to have that lifeline. So
yeah. Into that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your books and the blog. So 1 Million Frogs, Lessons about Entrepreneurship Learned the Hard Way, and on Amazon.
Yes.
And what's been the greatest thing for you about writing that book?
That was painful. It was painful. It was great to write it with my business partner, but it took a long time. And I think, I started writing for pleasure probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I think trying to get our thoughts down, our story down, we weren't happy with it for a really long time, and I'm still not really happy with it. It's not the book that I thought it was going to be. It's not what I anticipated. So that's what made it painful, and the fact that it took so long made it doubly painful. But I think it was cathartic in a way to do it. It was helpful to do it. I think I learned how to write doing it. I learned how maybe to write better. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was at the end of the day, it was a good project to do, because it did make us think about what we accomplished and how we accomplished it and what it took, and all those lessons. If we hadn't written some of those stories down, those things would be forgotten. And I think some of those, and we didn't even put all of the really good ones in there. It really helped us to grow and mature. I'm a much different person than I was 10 years, 12, 11 years ago now, 10 years ago now. You know, the things that bothered me early on don't faze me now. I don't get bent out of shape, and I don't get all crazy and sort of frantic about things. You know, you learn and you grow and you learn some hard lessons. And we learned a lot of hard lessons. You know, we thought, it was funny, I was telling a group the other day, we had a 600-page business plan. And we thought we had every answer. We were coming from the consulting world, and we thought we knew exactly what we were doing and how we were going to do it. And I swear to God, the first day that we had the keys to that place, the business plan went out the window. And so, you know, and the story about the title is kind of funny. I should make you read the book to do it, but I'll tell you the story. You know, our first group of people that we hired was, they were great people, but they were people who were, you know, delivery drivers, and they were people who boxed up product and put it in a box and put a label on it. They were a great team, and to this day, many of them still work with us. But it was funny because we sat in a hotel room and we said, you know, we're going to sit down and we're going to apply all these fancy consulting tools to this business, and we're going to figure out, you know, what we're going to do. And I remember we were trying to do the SWOT analysis of the product, and we just had all these blank stares, and people were looking at us like we were aliens. They were looking at us like, what are we doing with these people? What are they saying? And it was all this fancy language and all. You know, we were used to being in rooms with CEOs. You know, we were used to being in rooms with corporate people. And so I remember that Pete and I kind of walked out of the room for a second, took a break, and we said, this is going over poorly. They're not understanding what we're trying to do. We're trying to include them in how we're going to make this business work. And I remember saying, okay, let me do something. Let me see if this works. And I walked up to the whiteboard. We walked back into the room, and I wrote 1 million frogs on the board. And for those of you, the product that we had was a frog aquarium. It was this little weird science kit thing that had with frogs. So that's why 1 million frogs. And that actually became sort of the what we focused on, and people understood that. It actually simplified what we were trying to accomplish. What we were, you know, we said we're going to try to sell 1 million frogs, and it gave us a goal, and it was something that everybody got. And so that's where the story in the book comes. But you know, we learned a lot of lessons. We had a lot of failures, but we learned a lot from those, and we grew.
Learn to never launch a book at Christmas when you run a toy company.
What's that?
I saw that on a video. I saw a video where you shared that never launch a book at Christmas when you run a toy company. Yeah,
that was another one. That was sort of a bad planning.
Yeah. If you had to share, like if you had to extract one phrase from 1 million frogs, what would it be?
I'm sorry? I lost you.
If you had to extract one single phrase from the book, or make one phrase from the book, to like represent the whole work, what would it be?
Well, that's a great question. Lessons. I think it was about learning. That first business we learned so many lessons from that I think lessons about business, but lessons about life, you know, lessons about yourself, about how you handle stress, how you handle crisis, how you handle relationships under those circumstances. I think lessons would be the word. We learned so many things, and I think it's made us better at what we do now. I knew about the frog aquarium, but I didn't know that you wanted to sell 1 million frogs, and that I thought that maybe it has something to do with. Yeah. Well, we've sold millions of frogs now, millions and millions. So that's it did a little bit better. It did a little bit better. It did a little bit better than a million.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thank
In Swedish, we say that you make a frog, but we say it in Swedish, obviously. But that means that you make a mistake. Okay. 1 million frogs.
I like it. There were probably 1 million mistakes too, so that's good.
Okay, entrepreneurship and your main work. What ingredient in the Rhett Power package makes you such a successful entrepreneur, in your opinion?
I don't know. So much of it is timing and luck. I mean, how many people have great products, but their timing sucks, Or
My uncle says that luck doesn't exist.
I think there's a little luck to it. I think work ethic, one of the things that I'll say about, our team and about my business partner is that, we were willing to outwork anybody. And I think there's so many ingredients that make somebody successful. The perseverance, the ability to think outside of the box and think about problems in a different way. I think you have to be a problem solver. How many people you've probably worked in an organization where people are very good at spotting problems, but not very good at finding the solutions. And, so I think entrepreneurs are naturally sort of problem solvers. I think there's all kinds of ingredients, and I think different personality types can be successful in different types of businesses and different situations. I think we were successful. We had a good mix of, my partner and I, we complemented each other's skill set pretty well, and so he had skills that I didn't, and I had skills that he didn't, and so those complement each other, and we figured out very early on how to communicate, and that was the really essence and the key to being successful is that communication. So I think it all kind of comes together. I don't know that there's just one element that you have that makes you successful. I think it's multiple things in your personality and your belief system, and I think you have to have an incredible work ethic to make it work. People don't tell you the sacrifices that you have to make as an entrepreneur. Right now I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am. I have more time. I have a lot more freedom of time. I have a lot more control of my time. But when you first start, it's you're married to the business in a lot of ways, and it takes that kind of commitment to make it work. And if you're not willing to give that and sacrifice your time and your money and everything else, we didn't pay ourselves for the first 2 years, and that's not something I ever thought I would. We had in our business plan, we were good to go in a few months, and that's just not the way it works out. And so you have to, be willing to do anything that it takes.
Yeah. Rhett, can you explain the feeling of being invited to speak on stage? Zuckerberg and Obama at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit. What does it feel like to get that letter?
Well, look, it's incredible to, spend time with people like that. It's incredible to, sit down and speak. I think one of the greatest conversations at GES this year was I had a sit down with Steve Case, and to sit down with somebody that is a genius in so many respects, and actually a really nice person, is quite an honor. And it's I don't know what to really say about it. It's great. It's an amazing honor to be able to sit down and people listen to what you have to say. I don't think I ever really intended to never really thought much about people being interested in this stuff. You know, we wrote that book to answer your question from earlier. You know, we didn't write that book for people. We wrote it for us. And it's quite an honor to have people think it's worthy of you know, having a conversation with me about it. So it's very nice, and it's so I'm glad I have something to say that people think is interesting. It's an honor.
Yeah. Can you share something that for you that was one great takeaway from the summit?
So the best thing I think I got out of it was a new business. So so we met a lot of young entrepreneurs at the summit, and we're working with a company out of Russia that is that we met at GES 2 years ago in Kenya. It was at the Global Entrepreneurship in Kenya, and we've been talking for about a year. They are now ready to go and work with us. They spent the last year working to get the product right and get the systems in place. And so now we're working on how we're going to launch that in the United States and possibly Europe. And so yeah, we got together in California and made a deal. And so that was for me one of the most exciting things that came out of it, because and that was sort of one of our intentions, was to go there and find a young entrepreneur or a young company that really needed some help to get going. And we found the right one for us and the right partnership. You know, we look for people to invest in, not necessarily companies. So I think we found the right people, and they happen to have a pretty daggum good product. So I'm pretty happy about that.
That's awesome. Okay, we already touched upon the word sacrifice, but to build and succeed, we have to take a risk and give up security, sacrifice something better. But we have to do it without knowing that taking that risk will actually get us there. What do you think determines if a person takes that risk or not? Is willing to make the sacrifice?
So if I heard you right, if you could repeat that? I didn't quite catch it, I don't think. When
you want to succeed, you understand that you have to make some sacrifice. You have to give up some things in order to get that thing you want more. Many people never do that. They're not willing to take the risk, whereas others, they take the risk over and over and over and over again. And that, what is it that makes the people who actually do take the risk over and over, what is it in them that makes them do it?
Maybe they have adrenaline. They like the adrenaline of the risk. I don't know. I think I suffer from that same thing. I love the taking that chance. You know, I do. I think it's maybe a personality trait. I have this argument with Pete all the time about is entrepreneurship, are you born with it or is it something that you learn? And I'm not a genetic scientist, so I don't know. And I don't know if it's character or where it comes from. But I know about my personality. I think what I know is if I was in a cubicle all day, I'd be really unhappy. And so, you know, if I wasn't running at 200 miles an hour with my hair on fire all the time, trying to get everything done, I think I would be unhappy. You know, so maybe it's a personality thing. But I think, you know, the people who do take those risks over and over and over again, I think they probably enjoy it. They probably enjoy the unknown. They probably enjoy and thrive on the excitement of trying to start something new, something meaningful. You know, one of the things and the reasons I got into entrepreneurship and started You know, I was a consultant for a long time, and I would wake up every morning, and, you know, if you looked at it on paper, there was no financial sense for me to leave that. There was no financial sense at all, because I was making very, very good money. I was filling up my passport every year, going to places. There was no incentive. I mean, I had a great life, and people thought, you're absolutely crazy for leaving a job like this. But they didn't live in my body. They didn't live in my mind, and they didn't wake up every morning thinking something was missing. And that's what I would wake up for years and think, I should love this. I should love what I'm doing, because it's making a difference. I'm getting to do the things I always dreamed about doing, but I'm not happy. I'm not. There was something in my stomach and my gut that said, or my heart that said, you're not doing what you should be doing. And I didn't have that satisfaction until I started a company. And I didn't know that was going to give me the satisfaction. But I distinctly remember the day that we got the keys to that building, and we walked in and we said, this is ours. And that feeling was gone. And that feeling of, like, I have a chance to build something significant here. And if you go in our office, the word significant is over the door. And the idea is that we wanted to build something significant. We wanted to build something that we could be proud of, that was ours. And I think, to answer your question, I think that's what maybe drives people to do it over and over and over and over again, because they want to build and create. And I think for me, that's what it is.
Yeah, I can feel that in my throat. Okay. If you could acquire one skill without any effort whatsoever, just like that, what would you want to do that, and why?
More languages.
Which one would you go with first?
Well, that's a good question. I was hoping you didn't ask me that. Wow. Well, I have this dream of living on a beach in Thailand somewhere, or Southeast Asia. So maybe Thai, maybe Chinese. I think, let's see. I learned Russian, but I've forgotten most of it. And I've learned Spanish, and I've forgotten most of it, or never learned it very well. I'm not sure which one. So maybe Spanish. I would want to be fluent, really fluent.
Yeah. Right. We'll came to you.
That's a tough question. That's a tough question. I don't have a full answer for you on that. I'd have to get back to you.
Okay, so do you feel successful? If yes, what defines that feeling for you? And if not, what else do you need in order to feel it?
I feel lucky. That's what I feel. I don't look at it as success. I feel like I have control. I think we talked about time a little while ago. I feel like I have control. You know, I remember when I worked for somebody else that I didn't have control. You know, I was building something for somebody else. I was essentially told when to be at work and when not to be at work. And, you know, I had, pretty much you have to do what you're told. And I feel like right now I do what I want to do when I want to do it. I can go where I want to go. So yeah, I don't know if I'd say successful. I feel happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy. So if that's successful, you know, I think you ask 10 different people what different people what success is, they're going to give you 10 different answers. For me, it's happiness and in control.
Yeah. I love that answer. Thank you. What is one massive goal for you in your future dream vision?
I want to sail around the world. That's a big goal. That's a life goal. That's on my bucket list. So that's a personal goal. Professionally, I think we'll just keep building businesses while I have the ability to do it, and keep working with young entrepreneurs and people. I'd have to say I want to keep doing things that make me happy. I've sort of resolved in my life now not to work with people that don't make me happy. I've resolved not to spend time with people that don't make me happy, or do things that don't make me happy. And so that's in my personal mission statement. I'm going to stick to that, and I'll take on projects that I like and that I are fully endorse and believe in. And I'm not going to work on things that I don't anymore if I don't have to. And that's my biggest professional goal.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay. So 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to ask you a whole bunch of questions when you came to Luxembourg.
Yes.
Again, so I'm everything you share, the blogs, what you write, I love it. I follow you. I maybe even stalk you. I don't know. But thank you for all the great content you've shared. So I'm going to read the 1 Million Frog and leave a review.
Thank you.
So get Rhett's book on Amazon, 1 Million Frogs. And for everyone who wants to stalk you like I do, what's the best place to find you?
Well,
Power.com?
Right. I just put up a new site. That site just went up yesterday. It's got a few things that we're working on it, though. So it's not quite done, but I believe in launching when you're almost there. And so that site is up, and you can also find me on theinc.com. And I also, if you're interested in coaching, you can go to the coaching power coaching group.com as well, and look at our training and consulting services that we offer. And so, yeah, you can reach me any of those places, inc.com / I think Rhett Power. You can find me at all those places. But
I'll post
certainly
to that in the comments.
And highly encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter as well, and Facebook.
So, Rhett, I say thank you so much for taking the time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and best of luck.
Yeah, well, let's keep in touch. And thanks for keep pushing on me to do this. This has been a lot of fun, and let's do it again. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.